could have lost it. I could have lost it a few times, actually. No, let me be serious. No, honestly, it's not for the weak, man. Pursuing a passion, making that leap, pivoting is hard because you do not know what the outcome will be. You can just hope.
Hi, Chantelle. Welcome to Pivots Paydays.
So excited. Hello. Thank you for having me. Honestly, I've been looking forward to this.
No, you are literally making my day. I texted you this morning and I said that I've literally been smiling since I woke up. So this is very exciting for me.
No, I'm really excited. Yeah, same.
I'll tell you why I've been looking forward to it so much, right? I mean, other than the fact that you're an incredible human being generally, I'm very fascinated by people who decide to go left when everybody else is going right. And I think you're one of those people. And I say that because some of the things that you've done in your career, the rest of us really only dream about and don't ever really go and pursue it because, you know, for one reason or another, like it seems so intangible, so impossible to do. And you actually made the decision to go and do it. I'm excited to have this conversation just to break down the decision-making, break down how you actually got into what you're doing and how the dream went from being just a dream that you think about to an actual reality. And that's probably where I'm going to start it. Tell us, what was the dream and how did that dream go from just a dream to reality?
Woo! So the dream was to be an actor.
Yeah.
Really and truly, like deep down in my heart. Like I've always been intrigued by that industry. Yeah. But like you say, it felt so far-fetched to me because that passion just came from my love of TV and film. At the time, I hadn't really been exposed to the theatre industry. I just knew that I loved TV and film, but I had no clue how to even break into there, if I could even do it. Yeah. I didn't know anyone who was an actor or anything like that. It just wasn't in my circle, but I held it in my heart. So I remember after I graduated, I had this revelation of like, look, I've just done a 3-year course in something that I did not enjoy. I need to make sure now that I try it. Like it was one of those like, throwback, YOLO. It was one of those moments. At the time, I felt like that sentence was actually like, that phrase was going around. And I was like, yeah, you do only live once. I need to. And I remember I signed up for some beginners acting courses. And that was the first pivot. That was the first. Yeah.
So what did you study at uni?
I did criminology and psychology.
Right, okay.
Which at the time, I did think I was interested in it, to be honest. Like it was something that intrigued me. And then once I got into it, I just realized that it just wasn't what I wanted to do. And I think at that time as well, my passion for a creative job was rising. So it was like I was battling with finishing a degree because I've started it now. And, you know, I'm not enjoying it, but I don't hate it. It's not the end of the world. And like just saying like, maybe I should just completely jump. And I didn't make that pivot at the time. I stuck it out, did the degree. But afterwards I was like, I cannot continue down this road. Like,
that's such a familiar story though. Like I've spoken to so many people who, because they started the degree, they felt like they finish it. I think it's worse maybe when you don't hate what you're doing. Like if you hate what you're doing, there's a more clear impetus. Okay, I need to do something else. But if you're somewhere in the middle, you don't hate it, you don't love it, it's so easy just to keep going for keep going sake, or just to keep going just to finish, because you can't say you started and didn't finish, and that's a whole other thing. So that's such a familiar story, and I'm so glad that's like where you started. So you've done that, you finished your degree, kudos. And then you pivot into some initial acting classes.
Yes.
Okay. What happened next?
So during that time though, I was encouraged by my mum, and rightfully so, to try and get some sort of entry-level corporate job just whilst I was figuring it out. Because I had an honest conversation with her and I was like, I'm not going to pursue criminology, psychology or law, which was like the original plan. And she was really supportive and really understanding. I think that I really needed that because that helped me like make the decision to book the beginners acting courses. But also I was like, you are right, let me try and also like find my feet financially as well. Yeah. So I got a job as an administrator in an estate agent. I hated it. Hated it that time. Yeah. But what got me through was the acting courses, because that was, as soon as I started those, I could have been doing any job and it didn't matter. Like the joy that brought me, and as I was discovering myself, it was like, this was something that I've always been intrigued about, but scared to do. I'm finally doing it and I'm enjoying it. And there's no pressure. It's like a beginner's course and with like-minded people. Yeah, so that pivot into starting these lessons and starting like an administrative job, it felt fine. There was a nice balance there. Yeah. And so I could get along with the job, you know, even though I really didn't like it, because I had started kind of like, yeah, the catalyst to my career, which I didn't realize would happen at that time. Yeah.
There's a couple of things that you said there. First is the F word, which is financial stability.
Whew.
That is like, it's the thing we all know is absolutely necessary because we need to pay for stuff. And it's almost sometimes feels like acknowledging that it's a thing means that you can't do anything else. You know, like you need to prioritize that. Everything else has to take a backseat. And for a lot of creatives in particular, that can feel quite, I don't know, it can feel quite restrictive. It can feel like you're no longer allowed to follow the creative path that you actually want to take. Yeah. So in your story, where you've actually like, you're doing that role and at the same time you're taking these art classes, you're taking your beginner acting classes, the fact that you've been able to balance both, I wonder what mindset you were in. Talk to me about the actual practicalities of balancing those two things.
That's a good question. It was difficult because it was like during the day, I'm at this job that I really don't like, and I'm just waiting for the clock to hit the evening so I can go run to my lesson. And it's funny because I remember there was one day where I can't remember what happened, but they were trying to get me to stay. And I had a course to get to. And I remember being like, come rain or shine, I'm gonna leave when my time is up. And I remember the pushback because I think I was also naive. It was my first like corporate job. So I didn't realize like, if you're being asked to stay, you're gonna have to stay. I was like, I'm out of here. I got things to do. And I think that was so funny. Like when I look back, especially if I knew then what I know now, I was like, this can't run. Like this, this is not how it goes. And I remember I missed that lesson that day and I was so upset. And that was,
I can imagine.
And shortly after that, I quit the job.
So that was the thing that was like,
that was the thing. It was, like what you were saying about the balance. As soon as that balance was no longer there, it's a crazy decision, but I was like, I'm not going to keep doing this if this is stopping me from doing what I want to do. I had such a hunger in me. I don't know where it came from, but there was just no other path for me but to do this thing. And at the time, I wasn't even thinking about it as a career. It genuinely was a hobby. And I think I had been missing that because I had just followed the path that you're told to do in school. You know, you get your GCSEs, you do your A-levels, you go to uni. And I'm doing all of these things, but none of it brought me joy. And I didn't really pay attention to that because I'm thinking, this is not supposed to bring you joy. This is just life. You need to educate yourself and then you need to get a job. Yeah. So as soon as I realized you can sprinkle some joy in there, nothing was getting my way. So I quit that job and then I started working in a hotel as a receptionist. And there I met this girl who told me about theatre work. Because I told her that I was taking these lessons, I was going to this school. And she was like, oh, I used to go there. And whilst I was going there, I actually worked in this theatre as like front of house. And I'd never heard of that before, again, because I wasn't really exposed to the theatre industry. Yeah. So then I quit that hotel job and got a job as a front of house team member in a West End theatre. And that was like the final pivot of like, now I'm not only making money, but I am surrounded by like-minded individuals. Like all my colleagues were dancers, actors, directors. They were just creatives. And being around people with that mindset completely, like it just catapulted the whole mindset of like, this is where I need to be and this is what I want to do. And finally, I was exposed to the idea of I can turn this hobby into a career, potentially.
Oh, like everything you're saying, I'm like vigorously nodding. This is, because you're right. Like that community piece, when you're around people that are trying to do the same thing or have an understanding at the very of the thing that you're trying to do. One of the things that I say to people that are pivoting is find a community of people who are in the space that you want to be pivoting into, because it makes all of the difference.
It really does.
You finished uni, you've done a few different roles while you're balancing breaking into the creative sector, the creative industry. At what point did it feel real? Like at what point did it stop feeling like, oh, this is just a hobby? And it started, you can actually introduce yourself as, hey, I'm Chantelle, I'm an actor. When did that happen?
I remember it clearly. So as I was working part-time as a front of house team member, I was in a part-time acting school. Yeah. That had an agency attached to it. And everyone knew that the likelihood of being signed to the agency was quite low because of the amount of students that were in the school. So it was one of those things that, again, felt very far-fetched, but you know, not impossible. Yeah. And that was my only introduction of an agency. So like being paid to do this thing, like having that connection. And so it was imperative that I do whatever I could to try and get signed.
Yeah.
And I remember I received a tape because the class that I was in, you're automatically enrolled into the commercial agency side of it.
Right.
And so I was kind of getting like tapes here and there, but I wasn't really booking them. I didn't know what I knew now about, you know, filming equipment, self-tapes, all of that stuff. So
sorry, just for people listening who are not, when you say getting a tape, what does that actually mean?
So suddenly like auditions basically online became a thing rather than in person. So you'd have to record yourself at home and then send the tape off to the agent rather than have an audition in person.
Right.
So that was a really big thing at the time. And they will always say things like, you can use your iPhone, it's fine. And you can. I've always used an iPhone. I never invested in a camera or anything like that. But you do need a tripod and you do need a backdrop. And I didn't have any of those things. I remember I used to struggle. I used to use my wardrobe as my backdrop and like stack chairs and books on my bed. So I knew why I wasn't really booking like anything at the time, but I also didn't really understand the importance of those things, like investing in those things in order to book work. But I remember she sent me this tape that wasn't for a commercial, and it was a scene from a Black Mirror episode that Daniel Kaluuya did. I don't know if you've seen it. I hadn't seen it at the time, but there's this monologue of him trying to like tear down this organization. And it's quite a famous one, but I hadn't seen it at the time. And she sent it through. And so I was like, oh, this is different. Like, I don't have to pretend to drink juice like for this commercial audition. Like, I actually have like lines. And I was so excited. So I remember giving it my all. I made sure that the set was making sense.
Yeah.
And I sent it off. And then she responded and said that she had forwarded it to a senior agent and that they wanted me to come in to audition for the actual agency, not just the commercial one for like TV and film and stuff.
Okay.
And I was like, I remember I was so shook, but I was so gassed as well because I didn't expect it. Like, it was just one of those things of, I'm doing this thing. And again, I really appreciate how naive I was because I think there was nothing to overthink. I was just enjoying everything. I was taking everything and I was doing it and I wasn't in my head about it. And I think that really helped and reflected in my tapes and my attitudes and stuff. So I went in, did the in-person audition, and they signed me there and there on the spot. And that's when I was like, oh, this is where I'm supposed to be.
Hey.
Also, it felt so easy, and nothing in my life before then had felt easy.
Yeah.
I felt like I had to really, not that I didn't work hard, I did, but it didn't feel like work.
Yeah.
And that to me was like so euphoric. It was the maddest feeling.
I completely relate to that because I've done several pivots as well. And when I finally got to the place where I was doing something that I felt like, oh my God, I love this. Do you know, everything before then felt like I was a goldfish swimming against the current.
Yeah.
Or I was a goldfish trying to climb a tree. There's that analogy, right?
Yeah.
But finally, when I pivoted into the space that I was loving being a part of, it felt like someone took me from the tree as a goldfish and put me in a pond.
Yes.
Where the current was going the right way and everything just felt natural and easy and figure-outable, you know?
Yeah. That is such a good way to put it. Like, it literally felt like that. And that was the moment when I was like, I am an actor now. I felt like I could say that with confidence. And yeah, you're right. Like, it just felt right.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was just making sense. It was making sense.
I love that. And you mentioned naivety, which I think is a superpower. And I think I wish there was like a way to put it in a bottle and just drink it every time you start something new. Because I genuinely do. I think when you know the rules of operation in whatever space that you're in, sometimes that becomes like a bit of a prison. You then only operate in the way that you think it's always been done. And actually, that's not how you innovate. That's not how you stand out. That's not how you make a difference and make real progress a lot of the time. So after you get signed to an agency, you're an actor. You can confidently introduce yourself as an actor. What do you do after that? And please use this as an opportunity to just rack off some of the, do you know what I mean? Some of the things that you've done, let the people know, because what you've done is incredible.
Thank you. Yeah, no, it was mad. Like, after I was signed, I remember I was still working in the theatre.
Yeah.
And I booked my first job and it was a commercial. And it was like, this is what I mean by so easy. And yeah, like knowing what I've had to do now and that job, it was like, it was the perfect first job. Like all I had to do, it was like sit in a cafe and I just had to have a conversation with someone else. And it was to the point where we were inside and the cameras were set set up outside. So me and this guy, I remember we were talking about like genuinely talking about our journeys and like how we got here and stuff.
Yeah.
And then like maybe an hour later, they're like, okay, that's a wrap, cut. And we were like, huh? We didn't even know they were filming. It was so funny. And that was like my first like paid job.
Yeah.
And in the theatre, like we had this staff room and it had a TV in there. Yeah. And during our breaks, we would watch like the chase and stuff. It was so cute. We're like a little family. And I remember during one time we were on our lunch break and the commercial came on the TV. And that was a crazy moment. Everyone got so excited and they were so lovely. Everyone was like gassing me up. It was so sweet. It was such a like pinch me moment of like, yeah, I was calling myself an actor when I was signed. But now like the evidence was on the TV. Okay. Like, yeah, it was like, it was real and it felt so good. And I remember after that, just going hard with my auditions. I invested in lights, I invested in a tripod, I invested in a backdrop. And I really wanted to book like a TV or film gig. And then I think a few months after that, I did book my first TV role. Yeah. And it was a small role in a detective series called Vera. Mm-hmm. And I was playing a waitress. I had one line. And I was messing that line up. It was so funny. The script supervisor coming out like, okay, Chantelle, like, we're just going to go through the line one more time. Yeah, it was so funny, but I was so nervous. And I just couldn't believe, like, again, I had hit another goalpost. Like, everything that I was hoping for and manifesting was happening. So then after I booked that one, I booked my first role with a character name. Because the Vera one, I was just a waitress. And then the second one, I had a name and I had more lines. But I was like part of a group of girls, so there wasn't a pressure of like a lead role or anything like that. So I can learn from my peers, and they really pushed me to I was just learning. I was learning on the jobs, like, and I was booking stuff as well. And it was mad because I didn't have any prior experience or knowledge, so I didn't know that this was rare. Basically. Yeah. And I remember sometimes on set, I'd be talking to other actors and would, you know, they were saying like, how long have you been doing this for? And I'd say only like 1 to 2 years. And they would be shocked because they had been doing it for like so much longer, like since they were kids, you know? Yeah. And it's true, like, you know, like I was never like a theatre kid. I was never a part of like the drama classes or anything like that. Yeah.
But you know, you were always like naturally funny. Like when I, you know, found out that you had gone into acting, it wasn't like a
shock, right? Yeah.
More of a, that makes absolute sense.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like I've always been a performer, like in school. I was just too shy to go through with it. So yeah, when I made the decision, it felt right because I do love to entertain. Like I do love to be like the Joker and stuff. So I'm really glad that I did follow like my heart and like I just jump. Like it was scary, but again, that naivety carried me. Because I was just thinking, what's like the worst that's going to happen is that it doesn't happen. And that's what the outcome would be if I don't try anyway. So, you know, you might as well just try it. And so then once I was on a roll and it got to a point where I became an actor full time. Like I left the theatre job and I could just live off acting, which is so crazy to say now. But at the time it was my normal and I was just so grateful.
The trajectory, because it is rare. Like I know actors that have been doing it for years and years and years, and it can take a really long time to get to the point where you can do it full time and it's paying all your bills. And do you know what I mean? You're able to get that sense of stability from it. So the trajectory that you had, like that's really something. Were you cognizant of what you had done? At what point were you like, oh, okay, this isn't the norm here, but I've done it? And how did you kind of not react to it, but what did you do with that? What did you do next? How did that change how you were thinking about that journey and yourself being an actor?
Oh, such a good question. Like it just made me feel whole, if that makes sense. I felt like I knew myself now. Like it was like I had been searching for who I wanted to be, the type of person I wanted to be, and I couldn't find the answers. And once I was in this industry, it's like, oh, like I know what I want to do, what I'm supposed to do. And definitely like as I'm getting experience and booking these jobs and talking to people, I'm hearing a lot of, I went to this drama school and I did this, went to this drama school. And I remember feeling very out of place and inexperienced sometimes of like, I'm with people who've, you know, they've been doing this. And I felt like I just kind of jumped in on the train and like was just flowing. And I did sometimes feel like maybe I missed out on like a pivotal type of training that could allow me to do anything. I wasn't sure if I was restricted from like my experience. But then I also felt like okay, yeah, I didn't go to drama school. Yeah, I might not know this technique or this, you know, famous acting teacher or anything like that, but I am still in the room with these people. And I did that. I made that happen through like hard work and learning and like being observant and just soaking in everything. And yeah, I feel like what I didn't have from drama school set me apart and helped me navigate like those waters.
100%.
Yeah. So yeah, it was like a battle of like feeling like I was inexperienced, but also like grateful that I was inexperienced. Yeah, I wasn't overthinking anything. I was just doing what felt natural.
Okay, so then you did something that most people, I don't know, most people would be scared to do, I would say, which is you pivoted out of acting and then went back into corporate.
Yeah.
Walk me through that and tell us what you're up to now.
So, I will never forget. So as I said, I was basically acting full time. Like that was paying my bills. And then in 2023, there was this huge strike in the industry that impacted everyone, like in front of the camera, behind the camera, like the whole industry. And even though it was predominantly based in America, it was like an international impact.
Of course, yeah.
And I started to notice a decline in the amount of auditions I was getting and money coming in, basically. And it got to a point where I realized I was burning through my savings and I needed to get a part-time job.
Yeah.
And that was such a difficult space to navigate. I remember trying to be realistic with myself of like, this is just how it is. There's ups and downs, but you need to prioritize, you know, find that word, the F word, financial freedom, stability, all of that.
Yeah.
But I also remember feeling like I had failed. And again, I think that came with the lack of experience of knowing that there would be ups and downs because everything was just happening. Like the trajectory had been like this for me so far. So this was the first time that I was like, no, this is what people have been talking about, where it's like, there'll be quiet times. And so, yeah, I remember having to like sit down with myself and say, okay, it's time for us to get a job. But now it's like, what job? I felt like I was so far from the corporate industry that nothing, like no one would hire me. Like I have this degree that I've not done anything with. So like what job? I've not thought about plan B. I thought it was just straight creative, acting, writing, producing, all of that. And so, yeah, it was a difficult time of trying to really decide on what the pivot was going to be.
Yeah.
And I remember the only thing that made sense to me at the time was to just go back to basics. And that would be the theatre. And not the same theatre that I'd worked at before, but another one, and try and build my skills there. And so this time, instead of like a front of house position, I tried to go for a box office position. Because although I didn't enjoy the job that I had at the estate agents, I knew that like if I was to be a corporate girly, that's my bag. Like admin, you know, receptionist, that sort of, you know.
Yeah.
That type of vibe, rather than I'm so bad, like I'm not a good bartender.
Yeah.
No, I'm not, I cannot even pretend that I am. And that's, no, I can just get a job at a bar or a restaurant. Yeah. You know? So then I started working box office at this theatre casually. And then I worked my way up to a full-time position. And then that was such an interesting time because I hadn't, even though I wasn't currently auditioning or acting as much, I was still an actor. And I had to keep telling myself that. So as I'm getting deeper into full-time work, I'm also trying to hold on to the creative side.
Absolutely.
And so on the side, I'm like writing and trying to produce and just put my own stuff on, just to still kind of have that connect to the industry. Because there's this thing where you turn a hobby into a career and you merge them. It could be a bit dangerous. And I feel like
a little bit.
That's where I was. That's what happened to me. I had turned this thing that I loved into something that I needed to pay my bills with. So now when I'm trying to separate the two, nothing's clicking. The math ain't mathing anymore. And I'm forgetting that I started this without thinking about a career and without depending on money. But because I had been successfully for such a long time, once I took the money aspect out of it, I can no longer recognize what this hobby, like what this passion was.
Right.
And that was difficult. And so I kind of like dropped it mentally altogether and was like, okay, let me just focus on making money. And I found myself in that like murky space for a while.
I'm really glad you brought that up because like that separation piece, particularly when you're what you're doing is something creative, or it can be something entrepreneurial. When you've built something, you have this thing that you love to do, and the money aspect comes into it. If the money aspect gets taken out of it, what you've just said hit the nail on the head, because it's then difficult to see the value of it almost.
Yes.
You know, and that I think is probably mentally one of the hardest things to do. And I was going to talk to you about this later on, but I'll probably talk to you about it now because we're here. But it's this notion of like idea heartbreak that it brings to mind for me. You know, I like to think of it as like when you're super excited about something, you do it, and you think it's going to be incredible. You put it out in the world, you think it's going to be fantastic, and for whatever reason, it isn't, or it doesn't go as you think it's going to go, or it doesn't blow up as much as you think it's going to. Like, away from that idea itself, when you're now trying to do the next thing, we don't talk about that enough, how hard it is to attack that next thing with the same ferocity, the same passion, the same, all of that good stuff. And that's what it makes me think about, like that value maintaining when the financial aspect leaves an idea, you know?
Yeah. It is crushing. Like you say, you kind of, it knocks your confidence a bit.
Yeah.
And suddenly that naivety that I was talking about before, that passion, that hunger is kind of like, it's stomped out a bit.
Yeah.
And so you now start doing things tentatively. And when you do stuff like that, it doesn't quite, it won't have the impact that you want, because you are scared, you are moving. And I did definitely feel that. And I think that's why, like I said, mentally, I just kind of dropped the whole thing.
Yeah.
Because I was so scared that would be the end, especially with this industry. Like, everything is so quick and last minute. Like, you can make a lot of money in a short space of time with acting, but you do that because if you don't, once it stops, you kind of have to treat that money that you made in that short time as a yearly salary.
Yeah.
And that can be hard when you have it in front of you. You're not thinking, okay, I need to put this much away for taxes, I need to put this much away for savings. You're like, because you could potentially do this all over again, like in the next month. I definitely was living in that mentality of like, it's fine because I'm just going to book my next one.
Right.
And I think that's why it took me so long to pivot from acting, because I was holding on to that idea of, okay, things are quiet now, but they can easily like
change.
Like tapes are still coming. There's a decline, but they're still coming. And every time a tape comes, I couldn't help to imagine booking that role and, enjoying that money, even though nothing is sensible.
Yeah.
But you're in that mindset of it can happen. So then, that hope kind of, time is passing and you're like, it can happen, but then it's not happening. So then at one point I have to be like, okay, it isn't happening. So I need to make a plan now of, whilst I'm waiting, I need to be making money.
Something happen in the meantime.
Something needs to be happening in the meantime. Yeah.
One of the phrases that I hear quite a lot, and I'm on board with it, but to an extent, is this thing around like being delusional. You have to be delusional. What are your thoughts on that? Because you've lived it, you've done the thing, and you've been in that space. What are your thoughts on that?
I am the biggest cheerleader for that saying. Delusional?
Yeah.
If you're not delusional, you're finished.
It's hard.
I think a lot of delusion was happening when I was my most successful.
Right.
100%. You have to, because it's like it is kind of like a mental safety blanket in a way. It's like a protection of, if I'm delusional, then I can protect my peace. Because once you start to think about things and deep it just falls apart. Because I realized that with like a creative career, most of the time it depends on someone else's decision. And it is so out of your control. All you can do is show up and put your best foot forward. And that isn't, unfortunately, enough, because you don't know what these people are looking for. Yeah. When I deep that, I was like, no, you have to be a bit delusional, because you can't overthink it, because it will affect your confidence. It will play on your insecurities. The first commercial that I booked, she didn't say it directly, but indirectly, the casting director basically hinted that I booked that job because I remember I was wearing this bright orange jumper. Right. And she was like, I really liked your jumper. So when you put it like that, it's like, you can now not try and think, I need to do the best example. Because I remember the audition was literally crossing the street. I had to pretend to cross the street, but in like a happy way.
Yeah. Okay. Fine.
The delusion comes of you just cross that street and enjoy it. Yeah. Because if you start to think about how you're going to do this and what you're going to say and how nice you're going to be when you introduce yourself. It doesn't matter, because at the end of the day, she liked how I looked. She liked my jumper.
Right.
You know what I mean?
That's insane, actually.
It is.
It's so true, though, right? Like, sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes we think that it's all of the small things that you do. And I'm a big believer in sweat the small stuff. Like, the details matter, all of that good stuff. Fine. But actually, sometimes 90% of the battle is showing up. It's being there, because something is going to stand out. It might be your jumper. It might be that thing can't happen if you haven't shown up, fundamentally.
Yeah.
You know, like, the thing that you still had to do in that is physically be there, actually show up and be present. Everything else was secondary, I guess.
Yeah.
Which is kind of insane.
It is. And when I found out, like, obviously that's not always the case.
No.
But when I found out it can be the case, I was like, yeah, I cannot think about anything. I get the brief, and like you say, I just show up and I do the work, and I can't overthink it. And with that, I like to be delusional, and it helps me to act like I've already booked the role and I'm just coming in just to do like a chemistry read, but my job is secure. And I feel like being in that state, again, it helps with that whole, I love this word, naivety of like, you know, like, I don't have to, I'm not overthinking this. So now I'm not really that nervous because we're just having a kiki. I'll see you at work next week. You know, it's like, I needed to adopt that mentality. Otherwise you start to understand that your job is to make these people like you. So now if you get rejected, you start to make the connection that they didn't like you.
It's personal.
And and that's not the case. Like, you cannot predict it. It's so out of your control. It's based on someone's decision. And you can honestly do the best performance of your life. But if someone comes in and they're just that bit taller, or the right, you know, just the right fit in the whoever's decision, create the casting director, whoever's mind of like, this is who they envision when they wrote up the character, your performance, it doesn't matter, because it had nothing to do with it. And it's funny because when I pivoted back into the corporate job, I realized that I had made a career on not only becoming other people, but not really having to depend on like how hard I worked, in a sense, because they were going to make the decision on whatever they wanted to make the decision on. Whereas in the corporate world,
then it really
I can wear my orange jumper. That ain't gonna do nothing. You know what I mean? Like, it's about my work ethic. It's about what experience I have, how I show up, how I display myself, you know? And that was like that was another thing to figure out as well. Like I don't have to be liked. I'm not stepping in this room to be liked. I'm stepping in to show that I can do the job. And that is what's going to get me the job. And it's such a funny balance, because also now I can be myself and I can develop as myself and show up as myself, where I'm so used to showing up as someone else. You know what I mean?
And you know, I didn't even think of that, but you're right. Like, the metric is completely different. And oftentimes when you're pivoting from one thing to another, it might not be as drastic as like something creative into corporate. It could just even be another job, but you do have to take that time to reassess and understand, like, what are the new metrics in this space? If I keep doing what I've been doing, does that still mean success in this new space? You know, and like becoming cognizant and aware of that, I think immediately puts you in a better position to be able to perform in that new context, in that new space, you know? Oh, Chantelle, this is, you're just giving gems.
It's so funny to reflect back on all of it, to be honest, because it's so easy to talk about now, but when you're going through it, it's a madness.
So we've talked about the F word, finance. Other than money, what were you looking for from your pivots? So first in pivoting into acting, but then pivoting back into corporate, like, what were the things that you were looking for other than finance?
Definitely, I would say the feeling of achievement. All of these things at one point in my life seemed impossible. And so for me, like, once I had a taste of what it feels like to reach a goal, that was what was driving me. Because I felt like with that also came like admiration from peers and family members. I remember when I first had the conversation with my mum and dad about being an actor, and they were like, "Are you sure?" They were very confused. And then when that first paycheck came through, they were,
confused.
The confusion disappeared, you know? And so it was that as well, of like, not only am I achieving things I didn't think I can achieve, my family is like, they're proud of me, you know? And so that, I was definitely looking for that validation as well. And outside of like finances and all of that, again, I genuinely love visual storytelling. Like I love the arts, I love TV, I love film, I love theatre. And so just being able to be in that space, being paid or not, it just gave me a genuine happiness, a genuine sense of like contentment that nothing else would like could give me.
Yeah.
So that was definitely like part of it as well. And legacy, like I was saying, growing up and doing the things that you're told to do, doing your GCSEs, getting your A levels, getting your degree, I didn't feel like I was really making a mark on anything. Like I felt like I was just doing what I needed that needed to be done. But if someone had to identify me outside of my physical appearance, I didn't know what people would like, what they would say, you know?
Yeah.
And so it was like finally having a title of like, I am a creative, I am an actor, I am a writer, I'm a producer, you know, being able to identify myself in other ways than what I look like, you know? I think that was definitely like that's something I was chasing.
Yeah. And in your second pivot into corporate, other than finance, obviously, was there anything else that you were looking for?
Yeah, definitely personal development. Like the thing that I was saying before of like realizing that this is not a space where I'm trying to like be liked. Like I need to show that I can do the work. I need to develop myself. I need to get these skills. And in the short space of time that I have been doing like my corporate role, I've learned so much. And I'm like, wow, like I can, like if I really put my mind to something, I can do it. Right. Which made the whole success in acting make a lot more sense to me, because I was starting to get a little bit delusional, like, oh, maybe it was a fluke, like maybe I was just being lucky. But then applying it to a corporate position of like, you need to know how to use this software. You need to know how to communicate verbally, written emails, talking to all sorts of people, knowing how to adjust like your tone or your approach, depending on who you're communicating with. Public speaking, like I know I'm an actor, but I'm actually quite shy if I don't like know you. I remember I had to like, I had to do basically like show these clients that were like going to invest a lot of money around the venue.
Right.
And I remember I was shaking in my boots. And I was thinking, what is going on? Why am I so nervous? And it's different. It's different. Like I'm myself, first of all, I'm not acting anymore. No. And I have to speak confidently. And I realized I didn't know how to do that as myself. It was mad. And so after that first one, a determination to work on that, work on my public speaking, my confidence as myself in a professional setting. And yeah, like the development, I'm seeing it in all aspects of my life, how I communicate with people, how I show up for myself, what I tolerate, what I don't tolerate. Because honestly, like when I was an actor, I really was like, it was so important for me to be liked, sometimes to my detriment, you know? Like sometimes I'm trying to put my best foot forward so this person can like me, and they do not deserve my friendliness, you know? But I'm thinking, if I'm not friendly, I'm not going to work, you know? If I'm not friendly, I'm going to be blacklisted. Right. So to get rid of that mentality and to just show up for myself and put my best foot forward when it's reciprocated, rather than trying to continue that. You know, once I sense disrespect, knowing that I don't have to, okay, I'll meet you where you're at then, if this is what we're doing. And so, yeah, definitely like just discovering myself in that way, which is so interesting to have both, because now I can switch.
Yeah. It sounds like the development that's happening for you right now is incredible, not just in like a career perspective, but also like in every aspect of your life, which actually is like the mark of when you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, it's going to permeate into all of the different aspects of your life. So I'm so proud of you, first and foremost. And thank you for sharing that. It probably wasn't the easiest thing to like reflect on. So I really appreciate you being so transparent and so vulnerable.
Yeah. I think it's important to talk about these things because, you know, people see the glitz and the glamour and stuff, but it's a roller coaster. There's ups, there's downs.
There's a lot behind it. There's a lot, you know, the mental work is things that you'll never see, and then assume that you are the only person going through it and struggling because you don't see it on anyone else. But actually, it's there, and everyone is having to do this work, and everyone is having to overcome these things. So I'm sure people listening will as well.
I hope so.
The other thing that I wanted to talk to you about, as we talk about the balance, even though you are in a corporate position, you are still an actor. Sometimes people feel like being practical and wanting stability is kind of the antithesis of being creative. you know, and it's, if you do that, then you can't do this. It's like an either or, as opposed to a continuum and something that you balance and mold. In your story, there's themes of both, where you've done so successfully, where you've needed to do so successfully, and where actually doing both has meant that you're able to do both to a higher standard.
Yeah.
How do you approach finding that balance while maintaining your creativity?
That's you know what, I had to change my mindset, I think, especially after the first pivot, when I realized that I needed to get a different mean of work. I had to, first of all, change my perception of fear of rejection, so that I can understand that whilst acting is not happening as much as I would like at the moment, that doesn't mean it's anything to do with me.
Right.
So I can still continue with my corporate stuff and use that as like a foundation to help fund my creative side.
Yeah.
You know, I had to accept that I can do both. Because like I said before, I had such a feeling of heartbreak when I realized that I couldn't continue being a full-time creative. And I had to realize it's not heartbreak. You know, pivot. You have to, you know, you have to sit with yourself and see what it is you need at the moment. And if it is financial stability, just understand that just because you are walking away, well, not even walking away, taking a break from your creative aspect, that doesn't make you less of a creative. That just means you're prioritizing something else right now. And I realized as I was getting into full-time work, nothing had to change with my creative stuff. I still do both now, you know, and you make it work. So yeah, finding that balance was making sure I had the stability. And for me at the time, that meant financial stability in order to not only help my mindset, because if I'm thinking about money and things like that, I'm not in the best mind frame to be creative. Like I've got a block now, you know, so I need to make sure that I'm good within myself in life in general, so that I can find the space and make the space to create and know that I can do stuff on the side. Like before, when it wasn't a financial pressure, like I can write anytime I want to. I can make a production company and produce, you know, small productions, or put my money towards my own play, you know, like I did before. So yeah, it's like trying to get rid of that mindset of like trying to find stability means that you're no longer like a creative, like you need to go hard or go like, nah, that's not the case. Sometimes, you know, you have to follow what the climate is, what the industry is. And if there's no work at the moment, there's no amount of hard work you can do to change that. You need to put yourself first and prioritize what it is you need. And that's what I realized.
I like to think of it in the sense of like, we attribute the value to the thing, the output. And what we do when we do that is we strip that value from ourselves. Like we stop understanding that we are the value thing. Like if you are a creative, you're going to be a creative in anything that you're doing. Like I'm not an actor, but I like to think of myself as a creative. I have worked in sectors that are, you wouldn't attribute creativity to those sectors because they're very STEM. They might be cybersecurity, it might be tech. I leverage creativity in every single thing and role and sector that I've been in. And I think that being able to do that has actually meant that I've been better at those roles, and I'm able to apply and see things from a completely different perspective because I didn't leave my creativity at the door. Like that's just me. So I bring that wherever I go. And I think it's the same thing, right? I think it's, you are the value thing. The value thing isn't the output. The output is just it's a byproduct of you being who you are in whatever space you decide to go into and exist in.
That is so true. Like, yeah, I 100% agree with that, because even though I'm talking about my corporate role, it's still within the creative industry, and I'm still finding ways to be creative in my role. And being inspired every day, you know. So yeah, I definitely agree with that. Like it's within. So you could be anywhere, and you could be doing anything, and you will still be a creative.
100%. There's emphasis, you know, the pivot, but less of a conversation around like what happens when you get to the other side. So for you, first we'll talk about when you got into acting. So when you pivoted into the creative space initially, was it what you expected it to be? What was different? Were there any surprises, good or bad? What was that like for you, actually doing the thing, living it?
I remember like when I first pivoted into it, I didn't have any expectations before, because I knew nothing. Like I was in a whole fish out of water, you know, like this was all new to me. So everything that was happening to me, I was taking it as gospel, as this is exactly what everyone else goes through. This is just what it is. And I think, again, that was part of the naivety that helped me, but also the inexperience, like, to me, I could not understand any other situation of being in this space. I just thought this is what it is. Like, you just do this.
Yeah.
And it just gets better.
Yeah.
Which was the case for me and is the case for some people, but it's not
the norm.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's not the one way to be in that space. So I remember like just being happy to be there. So everything was great. Everything was fantastic. Like, you know? And so, yeah, like expectations, there weren't any. But as I was, as years are going by and I'm getting more experience and I'm seeing how it works, I'm seeing the ins and outs and the good, the ugly. I'm like, oh, okay. It's not really what I expected, but I'm in it now and I'm just going to make the most of it.
Yeah.
But your point of like what happens when you get there, for me, it's so funny because I think of that famous picture of Kobe in the locker room holding a trophy, and he looks really sad. And I think of that because I sort of felt that once I was in a position where I was acting full time and I was making the most money I've ever made. A part of me was a bit like, oh, like it can only really go down from here, you know? I was reflecting back from the beginning. Little me, who loved TV, loved film, had no idea that she would end up being an actor. Now an actor, now doing dream roles and making enough money to sustain herself. When I was looking back at that, I was like, wow, like I really did this. But then I was like, oh, so what now? To me, acting was like, you know what I mean? It was like the
pinnacle, the peak of something.
Pinnacle, like literally the peak. And so, and that just meant any type of acting. Even if I was only doing like little roles, not even really making a lot of money, but I was just in it, that would have been fine for me. But the fact that I got to a place where I can basically live off this career and work with people who I admire and like, basically call them my peers. Then I was like, there was a moment of, oh, wow, like now what? And so when the decline did happen after that, it hit hard because I kind of preempted it. Yeah. And I was like, we're here now. Now what do I do? And then you start to feel a bit embarrassed because other people can see your success now. Like it's public. And so you're like, if I'm not continuing to hit those marks and book those type of roles, now I don't look like a working professional, And that was my mindset at the time, until I came to my revelation of like, it's ups and downs. You'll always be a creative. It's about me, myself, not really about the accolades. As much as nice as they are, only I can take that away from myself, really. And so, that was a realization of, no one talks about when you get to the other side.
And it's so interesting as well, because it's like, you said it there, you worry about what it looks like to other people. A lot of the time, like that's even that idea of what it would look like to other people, even that's in your head, right? Like the reality of it is no one's really looking at you that.
Nobody cares.
Like no one can, everyone is trying to stay above water in their own pursuit and what they're doing. And actually, we don't even see the chronology of what you're going through and in real time. Like that's just not how it works. So for me, I'm your friend, but like I'm such a fan of you first and foremost. And every single time that I think of you or see you, it's never, oh, Chantelle's not done a big role in a while. Like I've never that, like for me, it's, oh my God, she did that thing. Like, no one can take that from you. Like you've done that, So it's just so funny, these narratives that we create in our heads, and where these narratives come from is just, they're made up. We're making them up.
Yeah. Literally, that's what it is. I'm my biggest enemy. Like, it's just not helpful. And it's easier to say now of like, you shouldn't do that. And, but these things happen. Like you do get thoughts and stuff. But as long as you like ground yourself and keep reminding yourself, like you said, like I did do these things and no one can take that away from me.
Absolutely.
And you don't know what the future is holding. It's ups and downs. So and no one cares. No one's watching you. Like no one will know, if you don't say these things.
Not at all. Like, people actually just assume that you're off doing something bigger and better. Like, no one takes the time to think, I don't know. It's just it's these weird narratives that we create. And it's something else I wanted to get your thoughts on, having done it and been through it, is I think if we're not careful, doing anything for too long can create kind of like a prison of identity. And like we've just said, like we start to build out these narratives, and those narratives become the bars that mean that you're not able to leave that mental space that you're in. When you decided to pivot from acting into corporate, how did that impact your perception of self?
Yeah, good question. Kind of like what I touched on before, of realizing that for a long time, me booking work was based on someone else's decision and was outside of my control. Like, so my perception of self is show up, be polite, put your best foot forward, you know, and all of that stuff, which still exists, it still applies, you know, now. But I think after I pivoted and I realized that it is still someone else's decision, but it's very clear the criteria I need to meet. They lay it out on the table. That job description is there. Do I hit the mark or not? You know? Whereas with acting, it's like I can hit the mark in every way, but I just don't fit the role physically.
It feels more subjective.
Yeah, exactly. And so you which is crazy because you end up doing all these things. You have to create the job description yourself. When you get a role, you have to say, okay, this person did this. You have to do the backstory, you know, so that you can do the best version that you can do. But it just might not be what they're looking for. But it's still great, you know? So it's like understanding now that I don't have to shapeshift. I need to be myself, and I need to have a clear perception of who I am. Who is Chantelle? So that when I step into this room that have made it clear what they're looking for, it has nothing to do with how I look, how I sound. It just has to do with my credentials.
Absolutely.
You know? And I think that has really helped me. I'm really glad that I got to experience the two. Because if you're stuck in the first one, I don't want to speak for anyone else, but for me personally, I would be so lost as a person. I wouldn't know who I'm supposed to be. And I would try my best to be myself, but that will always be a bit warped, a bit tinted, because I had to be someone else for like 6 months, you know, and this is what someone really liked because it fit that character. But then when you know, let that character go and you go back to yourself, the body, it feels things, it remembers things. So you start to pick up tics of whatever character you were playing before. And for a long time, I felt like the characters that I were playing were never like, they were never really the leads, and they were never supposed to be attractive. They weren't supposed to be ugly, but that wasn't like the driving point. Like most times I find myself playing someone sporty, so I need to be athletic, I need to be ambitious. Or I find myself playing like a teenager, so I have to be a bit naive, a bit, you know? And so you kind of pick up those things as myself, and like, you know, I can feel that once I've shaken that off, I've not really grown as a person. I don't really know who I am. And so it was like a lot of trying to make sure, like you have to make sure you know yourself. And I identified that by what brings me joy. Like, what do I like to do? You know, but my family and my friends, you know, things like that. And I think now that I'm in both still, but now that I've tasted corporate, it's created such a strong foundation of who I am as a person, because I don't have to be anyone else. I need to show up as myself, and I need to work hard on myself, you know, in all aspects of my life, confidence, communication, you know, all of that. So yeah, I think if anything, it's strengthened my perception of self.
I thank you for sharing that as well. Thank you for just consistently just being so vulnerable and so open, because of course it's probably more intense in acting because the job is literally to be someone else. I think even extrapolating that to pivoting more generally, even if you're going from a corporate role into another corporate role in a different sector, I think that there definitely is still that element of needing to know yourself, because anytime you enter a new environment, there's a temptation to play a character, we're not acting, but like there's a temptation to play a version of what you think is the person that belongs in that space. And that person might not necessarily be who you see yourself as. So you're leaving aspects of yourself at the door in order to fit in. And then maybe you're 6 months in, but your team hasn't really met you. And then you start to struggle with, okay, I'm going to be here for a long time. I'm going to be here long term now. I've passed probation. I can't keep being somebody else. Like at some point they need to meet me. Otherwise that disassociation between who you are at work and who you are at home. And I think that's just fundamentally a more difficult way to exist in the world.
It is. And if you add the layer of being part of the global majority, but I guess the minority in a corporate workspace in this country, you do assimilate. You do start to, like you say, leave some aspects of yourself at the door, because it is, you know, it's not intentional, but you are like, I don't know about you, but most times I am the only one of myself, if not of one other, you know? And so you do have to try and fit in with everyone else. So when you add that layer on top of, like you say, you know, trying to just fit in this particular role, you know, these colleagues, yeah, you really can leave a bit too much of yourself and feel like you guys don't even really know me for real, you know, like, yeah.
That's a hard thing. You mentioned as well, like part of staying grounded and part of knowing yourself in the space that you are now is like your community, your family, your friends, having that strong support system. Who is the person or community that's made the biggest difference in your pivot journey so far? And how did they help?
You know what? Definitely my friends.
Yeah.
I would say, like, a lot of my good friends now are either from school, like yourself, from secondary school, or it's the people that I met as I was training. So that's the school that I went to, that I signed with the agency for. Being amongst those people, especially a certain group of girls where we came together and made a collective to try and make work that reflected people who look like us. We wrote plays of extensions of ourselves. And I feel like that support system of not only being seen, but also being uplifted. Like we championed each other, you know, in this industry where we felt a bit, at the time, like neglected or overlooked. And I think if it wasn't for that catalyst, I probably wouldn't have the drive to have really gone for it. Because I had people who were telling me, we exist in this space, acting, and we deserve to take up, you know, some room. And if they're not going to open the doors, we're going to either kick down the doors or create our own rooms, basically. And I think being around people with that mindset, I was like, I was literally like, there is nothing I cannot do, because I have a support system of like-minded individuals, and not just creatives, people like yourself. I've been watching you and your journey and everything that you've achieved, and I'm seeing you, and I'm like, I can do whatever I want. There are no ceilings here. Like, honestly, we can do it all. And I think, I'm very, very grateful for my support system and my peers. Even if there are people that I'm not really close to, I'm watching and I'm seeing what they're doing. It's fueling me, you know?
This is one of the things that it's one of the philosophies that I live by. Like, inspiration it's not just a nice to have. It's fuel. So for anyone listening who is feeling a little bit down in the dumps, or is feeling like, I don't know what to do next, I don't know what that pivot is going to look like, I don't, you know, just unanswered questions, find like-minded people, find people that will uplift you, not just see you. Like, and I'm so glad you made that distinction as well, because they are different things. It's one thing to be seen, but it's another thing entirely to be really uplifted. And find that community that's really going to do that for you and pour into you, because it can make all the difference in the world. You know,
we need to see ourselves as well. Like, we can have the big idea, but it's easier when, you know, you see someone else doing it.
Absolutely.
You know? And you can identify with that person, because you now want to go above that, you know, you want to keep doing this. And so, it's very important.
Chantelle, tell me, what surprises you most about the person you're becoming through this journey?
Oh, you know what? My resilience. Because I could have lost it. I could have lost it a few times, actually. No, let me be serious. No, honestly, it's not for the weak, man. Pursuing a passion, making that leap, pivoting is hard, because you do not know what the outcome will be. You can just hope, you know? And at the end of the day, if you're in a position where you need to do this, you need a change anyway. And so good can only come from that. But I would say, like, what surprises me the most is what I've been able to overcome and push through and not give up. Even though sometimes I've been like, I'm done. It's I'm just talking, you know, I ain't going nowhere, I'm just talking. So it's like, I didn't realize how strong I was.
That's often the case.
Say again?
That's often the case, isn't it? You don't realize how strong you are until you're in a position.
Until you're in it. Like this.
Right.
You're fighting for your life, and you're like, what is going on? But then you make it through, and you're like, oh, wow, I really did that.
I can do that,
like, that's definitely, I would say my resilience. And just discovering in real time, like I said, there's nothing that I can't do that I put my mind to. Absolutely. You know, it sounds like a saying that people can just throw around, but it's very true. Like, if you really put your mind to something and work hard at something, there is no reason why it shouldn't happen. There really isn't. And I think discovering that was like, oh, wow, that's a big, it's just a big discovery about myself.
It's one of those things I find as well, that once you see it, you can't unsee it. So now it's like a constant challenge to yourself to be like, okay, well, what can I do? How far can I take this? How
literally
can I innovate, you know?
Yeah, 100%. I agree.
In that spirit, tell us what you're most excited about. Like, what's the next thing that you're thinking about or creatively building in the next like 6 to 12 months?
Oh, that's a good question. Do you know what? Now that if we had this interview at the beginning of the year, I would have said getting by, literally just getting by. But now I'm finally in a space where I have the perfect balance of my creativity and my corporate life. And I'm really looking forward to everything, developing myself in both sectors. Awesome. And that includes, from a creative perspective, a play that I wrote last year and that I put on, self-funded, self-produced. And now I'm ready to just take it to the next level.
Yeah.
And now that I have my like full-time job, I can finance that. You know, I'm in a space now where I have the mental capacity to take on both and to use the money that I'm making to fuel my creativity. And so I'm very excited about growing and continuing to, even if I'm having to create my own work rather than it like falling on my lap, how we all wish it would happen. Yep. I'm glad that I have the capacity to see that through and to watch that grow, and also just allowing things to just, what will happen will happen. You know, just taking a little bit of a back seat and just saying, I cannot predict where things are going to go. I can just do my best now and plant the seeds. So I'm very excited at this point of planting the seeds and just seeing.
Thank you for saying that. And selfishly speaking, I'm also very excited about this. I actually saw the play when you had put it on the first time. And since then, I've wanted to watch it again. As you know, it was so good. I'm someone that does watch plays. I do go to the theater because I just love that art form.
Yeah.
It was so authentic. It felt so organic. It made me feel so seen. Like the storytelling. Oh, Chantelle, I genuinely, I can't wait until you put it on again, because I will be there front row, ready to cry, ready with the tissues. Like it was amazing. It was incredible.
Oh, I love that. And I really appreciate your support. Like, you're literally like my number one fan with this play. Like, I'm so grateful. And I'm honestly, more than anything, the fact that you said that you felt seen means more, like, you know what I mean? Like, you put your work out there and people will take what they want to take from it. But if someone says that you wrote something and they saw themselves in it, it's like the highest compliment. So I'm really happy that that you received the play that way. And that's, again, you're fueling me, because now that you've said that, I'm like, I need to do this again, you know, like I need to make sure that I don't give up. You know, it is hard doing things yourself, self-funding and all of that, but like conversations like this is what makes it worth it, you know?
And thank you for writing and seeing and acknowledging certain stories, because it's not often that certain stories are told on certain stages. So thank you to you for doing that.
Oh.
Final question is, if you could leave our fellow in-betweeners with one key message, what would it be?
Jump, leap, fly. Literally, it's so, like, you've heard it all before. Like, it's so cliche, but honestly, like I said before, if you are finding yourself in a position where you need to pivot or you feel like you need a change, there is no reason why you cannot do it. Just do it. Like, I do believe it. Like I said, it can only bring good things. When I found myself in a position of needing to go from corporate to creative, then back to creative to corporate, and then balancing the two, like, it does take a leap of faith. Like, it's scary and it sometimes feels bad, but change can, like, if it needs to happen, it will bring good things, and you don't know what it can lead to. So that would be like my key message. Like, just do it. If there's something that you feel like you need to do, you have to do it. Again, no one's watching you. No one really cares. Don't be scared of embarrassment. Like, again, there's two outcomes here. It's either it gets done or it doesn't get done. And the second one's going to happen if you don't try. Right. So you might as well try. And that is my piece of advice. Like, I swear by it, because I feel like I've lived it.
You're doing it now, you know?
Yeah, literally. Yeah. Nothing is permanent, in a good way and a bad way. So you might as well be growing and pivoting throughout your life.
I couldn't have said it any better. Couldn't have said it any better. Chantelle, thank you so much for coming, for sharing your story, for being so vulnerable and just so transparent. And these conversations are important. These conversations, I genuinely believe, will help people that are in a similar situation to, one, understand that there is a way out, and hopefully to steal some techniques in terms of how to, like, navigate the spaces that they're in. So thank you so much for coming, for sharing all of these gems. And we look forward to seeing what you have up your sleeve next.
thank you for having me. Honestly, to be able to speak so openly and vulnerably about my experiences, it means a lot. I'm not one to normally I'm quite private, but like I felt like this was really important because I felt so alone whilst I was going through these pivots. And so anything that I can say to help someone else going through these things, like, yeah, I'm more than happy to do it. And obviously, again, well done for creating this platform. This is incredible. I wish you all the success. I'm very excited for you as well to see what the future brings as well. You did that.